Aboard a luxurious private jet, a black woman is humiliated by a flight attendant's cruel prejudice, ordered to leave her first-class seat with a sneer. But when she rises, her shocking identity as the airline's billionaire owner flips the script, exposing a web of bias that threatens to crash the flight. Will justice soar, or will arrogance prevail? This gripping tale of power and redemption will leave you speechless. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for heart-pounding stories that challenge injustice and spark change, keeping you hooked with every twist. The golden glow of a fading sunset bathed the sleek private jet parked on the tarmac, its polished exterior gleaming with promise of an elite journey. Inside, the cabin radiated opulence, plush leather seats, gold-trimmed accents, and the soft hum of ambient music creating an atmosphere of exclusivity. Affluent passengers boarded with practiced ease, their designer luggage rolling behind them as they sipped champagne offered by a polished flight crew. Among them was Amara Brooks, a 42-year-old billionaire and owner of the airline, though her tailored gray blazer and understated elegance concealed her identity. She preferred anonymity, her measured steps drawing curious glances as she moved toward her seat with quiet confidence. Her destination wasn't just a business trip, it was a mission to expand her empire, a fact no one on board yet knew. Karen Ellis, the 38-year-old lead flight attendant, stood at the entrance, her crisp uniform and sharp features exuding control. Her smile was warm for some, lavished on an older couple, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, who clutched a knitting bag and a newspaper, but turned icy as she greeted Amara. "Welcome aboard," Karen said, her voice flat, her eyes scanning Amara with a subtle disdain, as if she didn't belong in this rarefied space. Amara returned a polite nod, her voice calm. "Thank you." She settled into her first-class seat, her carry-on neatly stowed, but Karen's gaze lingered, her lips pressing into a thin line. To Karen, appearances were everything, and Amara's poised demeanor clashed with her snap judgment. She prided herself on reading passengers, and something about Amara, her calm self-assurance, her refusal to seek attention, felt out of place in Karen's rigid hierarchy. Mr. Carter glanced up from his paper, whispering to his wife, "She looks important, doesn't she?" Mrs. Carter, her needles clicking, murmured, "Maybe a CEO, you never know." Karen moved through the cabin, her demeanor shifting with each passenger. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, so lovely to see you again," she cooed, her smile radiant. "Can I get you anything before takeoff?" Mrs. Carter shook her head, absorbed in her knitting, while Mr. Carter tapped his coffee cup, satisfied. When Karen passed Amara, her warmth vanished, her eyes flicking to Amara's bag with a barely concealed sneer. She offered no courtesy, no inquiry, simply striding past as if Amara were invisible. A young influencer, live streaming on her phone across the aisle, whispered to her followers, "This flight's already giving drama vibes, y'all." A businessman in a crisp suit frowned, his voice low. "She's being unreasonable, just check the list." Amara's gaze held Karen's, her voice calm but pointed. "Assumptions like that can cost you. I'd verify if I were you." Karen's face flushed, her voice rising. "Cost me? You're the one causing a problem. These seats are reserved for priority guests, not—" She trailed off, but the implication hung heavy, her bias laid bare. Mrs. Carter paused her knitting, her voice soft but firm. "Dear, maybe just look at the roster. No need for a fuss." Karen ignored her, her voice louder, drawing more eyes. "I'm not here to argue. Move to the back or I'll have to escalate this." Amara leaned back, her voice unwavering. "Escalate all you want. I'm not going anywhere." The influencer gasped, whispering to her stream, "She's standing her ground. Iconic." The businessman leaned forward, his voice measured. "Miss, this is getting out of hand. Check the manifest and move on." Karen's jaw tightened, her voice sharp. "Sir, this doesn't concern you." She turned to a junior attendant, Mia, who stood nervously nearby. "Mia, get the passenger list, now." Mia hesitated, her voice trembling. "Shouldn't we just confirm first? It's protocol." Karen's glare was venomous. "Do your job, Mia, or you'll regret it." Amara's voice cut through, her tone serene but weighty. "You're making a choice right now, Karen. Be sure it's the right one." Karen scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "A choice? You're the one who doesn't fit here. Rules are rules." The tension crackled, the cabin a pressure cooker of whispers and stares. A young mother across the aisle clutched her child, murmuring, "This is awful. Why is she targeting her?" Her husband nodded, his voice low. "It's not right. Something's off." Karen, now serving drinks, deliberately bypassed Amara, offering champagne to others with a forced smile. Amara raised a hand, her voice polite. "Could I have a coffee, please?" Karen paused, her voice curt. "I'll get to you later." She moved on, but moments later, as Amara shifted slightly, Karen accidentally tilted her tray, spilling scalding coffee onto Amara's lap. The dark stain spread across her trousers, and Karen gasped dramatically. "Look at this! You need to watch where you're sitting." Amara winced, brushing at the burn, her voice calm but edged. Karen's voice was sharp, defensive. "Accident? You're in the way, stirring trouble since you boarded." The influencer's voice rose, her stream buzzing. "She did that on purpose. This is wild." Amara's eyes locked onto Karen's, her voice low and deliberate. "You're testing my patience. That's a dangerous game." Karen's frustration flared, her voice shaking. "Testing you? You're the one who shouldn't be here." The cabin watched, breathless, as the confrontation teetered on the edge, the seeds of a reckoning sown in Karen's prejudice and Amara's unyielding resolve. The private jet's cabin, bathed in the soft glow of recessed lighting, was a cocoon of luxury, now crackling with tension. The scent of spilled coffee lingered, a stark reminder of the deliberate slight that had just unfolded. Amara Brooks sat composed in her first-class seat, her gray blazer damp from the scalding liquid, her posture unyielding despite the burning sting on her lap. Karen Ellis, the lead flight attendant, stood over her, her tray discarded on a nearby cart, her face flushed with a mix of defiance and agitation. The passengers, a mix of affluent elites, were no longer distracted by their champagne or devices. Their eyes were locked on the confrontation, the air thick with anticipation. The young influencer, phone still raised, streamed the drama to her followers, her whispers fueling the growing unease. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the older couple, exchanged troubled glances, their earlier warmth replaced by discomfort. Mia, the junior attendant, hovered at the edge of the scene, her hands twisting nervously, torn between protocol and fear of Karen's wrath. The businessman, his suit crisp, leaned forward, his frown deepening as the standoff intensified, a silent signal that this was spiraling beyond a simple misunderstanding. Karen's voice rose, sharp and commanding, her arms crossed tightly. "You're disrupting this flight. Move to the back now, or I'll have security drag you off." Amara's gaze was steady, her voice calm but laced with steel. "You're the one disrupting things. I've done nothing but sit in my assigned seat." The influencer's eyes widened, her voice a hushed commentary. "She's not backing down. This is next level." Mr. Carter set his newspaper down, his voice low but firm. "This is uncalled for. Just verify her ticket and let's move on." Karen whirled on him, her voice snapping. "Sir, I don't need your input. This is my cabin, my rules." Mrs. Carter's needles paused, her voice soft but pointed. "Your rules seem awfully selective, dear." The cabin murmured, a ripple of agreement spreading. A young mother across the aisle, cradling her child, whispered to her husband, "She's targeting her for no reason." He nodded, his voice low. "It's disgusting." Amara's voice cut through, her tone measured but piercing. "You're letting your bias run this show. That's a choice, and it's the wrong one." Karen's face reddened, her voice shaking with indignation. "Bias? You're the one causing a scene, refusing to follow orders." Mia, clutching the passenger manifest, stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Karen, I found the list. Should I?" "Stay out of it, Mia," Karen barked, her glare fierce. "I don't need a rookie telling me how to do my job." Mia flinched, her voice barely audible. "But protocol says we confirm first." Amara's eyes flicked to Mia, a flicker of approval in her gaze, before returning to Karen. "Listen to her. You're digging a deeper hole." Karen scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "A hole? You're the one who'll be sorry when you're escorted out." The businessman's voice was sharp, cutting in. "You're escalating this unnecessarily. Check the manifest and end this nonsense." Karen ignored him, her voice louder, addressing the cabin. "This passenger is refusing to comply with crew instructions. If she doesn't move, we'll have no choice but to involve authorities." The influencer gasped, her stream buzzing. "Authorities? Over a seat? This is wild." A new voice joined, a young tech entrepreneur in a hoodie, his tone incredulous. "You're seriously calling cops over this? Just check her ticket." Karen's composure cracked, her voice shrill. "Enough! This isn't a debate. She moves or she's off." Amara leaned forward slightly, her voice low and deliberate. "You're betting on the wrong horse. Keep going and you'll regret it." The cabin fell silent, her words carrying a weight that sent a chill through the air. Karen hesitated, her confidence wavering for a fleeting moment, but she doubled down, gesturing to Mia. "Get the captain on the line. We're not taking off until this is resolved." Mia's hands shook as she reached for the intercom, her voice faltering. "Shouldn't we just make sure first?" Karen's glare was venomous. "Do it, or you're next on the chopping block." The young mother's voice rose, indignant. "This is outrageous. You're bullying her for no reason." Her husband nodded, his voice firm. "You're making this flight a circus. Do your job properly." Karen's face twitched, her voice defensive. "I'm maintaining order. Some people think they can bend the rules." Amara's voice was calm, almost serene, but her words cut like a blade. "Order? You're enforcing your prejudice, not protocol." The businessman stood, his voice authoritative. "I've had enough. Captain needs to step in before this gets worse." As Mia dialed the cockpit, the cabin buzzed with whispers, passengers shifting uncomfortably. The influencer's voice was a hushed frenzy. "This is going viral, y'all. She's standing her ground like a queen." Mr. Carter's voice was low to his wife. "She's got spine. Karen's in for a rude awakening." Mrs. Carter nodded, her voice soft. "Pride comes before a fall, mark my words." Karen, sensing the tide of opinion turning, grabbed a microphone, her voice booming through the cabin. "Attention passengers! Due to a seating violation, we may delay takeoff. Please remain calm while we address this." Amara's eyes narrowed, her voice steady. "You're delaying a flight over your own mistake? That's a new low." The tech entrepreneur's voice was sharp. "This is ridiculous. You're holding us hostage over your ego." Karen's hands trembled, her voice faltering. It's not ego, it's policy. She doesn't belong in first class. Amara reached for her phone, her fingers swift as she typed, her voice quiet but ominous. You're about to learn how wrong you are. The cabin watched, breathless, as Mia's voice crackled through the intercom. Captain, we need you in the cabin. It's, urgent. Karen's smirk returned, her voice smug. You'll see, the captain will back me up. Amara's gaze was unflinching, her voice a quiet promise. He won't, and neither will the truth. The passengers leaned forward, the influencer stream surging with comments, the cabin a pressure cooker ready to explode. The confrontation had reached a fever pitch, Karen's prejudice clashing with Amara's unyielding resolve, setting the stage for a reckoning that would shake the very foundations of the flight. The private jet's cabin was a crucible of tension, the soft hum of the engines drowned out by the charged silence following the escalating clash. Amara Brooks sat poised in her first-class seat, her damp trousers a lingering testament to the earlier insult, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm brewing around her. Karen Ellis, the lead flight attendant, stood rigid, her microphone discarded, her face a mask of defiance barely concealing a flicker of doubt. The passengers, now fully engrossed, leaned forward, their whispers and glances fueling the drama. The young influencer, phone still streaming, captured every moment, her followers flooding the chat with shocked emojis. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the older couple, sat with pursed lips, their disapproval palpable. Mia, the junior attendant, clutched the intercom, her eyes darting nervously between Karen and the cockpit door where the captain's arrival was imminent. The businessman, his arms crossed, radiated quiet indignation, while the young mother and her husband murmured their outrage. The tech entrepreneur, his hoodie askew, tapped his foot impatiently, the cabin a powder keg waiting for a spark. Karen's voice broke the silence, her tone sharp but unsteady. You think you can intimidate me? The captain will have you off this plane in minutes. Amara's eyes locked onto hers, her voice low and unyielding. Intimidation isn't my style. Truth is. The influencer's voice was a hushed frenzy. She's so cool under pressure. This is epic. Mr. Carter leaned toward his wife, his voice low. Karen's about to crash and burn. Mrs. Carter nodded, her voice soft. She's misread this terribly. Mia's voice trembled as she spoke into the intercom again. Captain, please hurry, it's getting heated. Karen smirked, her voice smug. You're done here. No one defies me in my cabin. Amara's lips curved slightly, her voice calm but piercing. Your cabin? You're about to lose more than control. The businessman's voice was firm, cutting in. You're embarrassing yourself. Step back before it's too late. Karen whirled on him, her voice snapping. Stay out of this. I'm protecting the integrity of this flight. The young mother's voice rose, indignant. Integrity? You're bullying an innocent woman. Her husband nodded, his voice sharp. You're the problem here, not her. The cabin buzzed with murmurs, passengers nodding in agreement. The tech entrepreneur's voice was incredulous. You're really doubling down? This is a PR disaster. Karen's face twitched, her voice defensive. I'm enforcing standards. She's the one breaking protocol. Amara's voice was serene, her words deliberate. Standards? Your prejudice is the only thing breaking here. The cockpit door swung open, and Captain Elena Ruiz emerged, her uniform crisp, her expression stern. Her eyes swept the cabin, landing on Karen. What's the issue here? She asked, her voice authoritative. Karen straightened, her voice eager. This passenger is refusing to move from a reserved seat. She's causing a disturbance. Amara's voice was steady, addressing Elena directly. "I'm in my assigned seat. Your attendant refuses to verify and has been hostile." Mia stepped forward, her voice quavering. "I tried to suggest checking the manifest, Captain, but—" Karen cut her off, her voice sharp. "Mia, I told you to stay out of it." Karen smirked, her voice smug. "You're done here. No one defies me in my cabin." Amara's lips curved slightly, her voice calm but piercing. "Your cabin? You're about to lose more than control." The businessman's voice was firm, cutting in. "You're embarrassing yourself. Step back before it's too late." Karen whirled on him, her voice snapping. "Stay out of this. I'm protecting the integrity of this flight." The young mother's voice rose, indignant. "Integrity? You're bullying an innocent woman." Her husband nodded, his voice sharp. "You're the problem here, not her." The cabin buzzed with murmurs, passengers nodding in agreement. The tech entrepreneur's voice was incredulous. "You're really doubling down? This is a PR disaster." Karen's face twitched, her voice defensive. "I'm enforcing standards. She's the one breaking protocol." Amara's voice was serene, her words deliberate. "Standards? You're—"
Elena's eyes narrowed, her voice firm. "Enough, Karen. Hand me the manifest." Karen hesitated, her voice faltering. "It's not necessary, Captain. I know." "Now," Elena snapped, her tone brooking no argument. Mia handed over the clipboard, her hands shaking. Elena scanned it, her brow furrowing, then looked at Amara, her voice softening. "Miss Brooks, my apologies. You're exactly where you should be." The cabin erupted in gasps, the influencer's jaw dropping. "Miss Brooks? Is she, like, famous?" she whispered to her stream. Mr. Carter's eyes widened, his voice low. "She's no ordinary passenger, that's for sure." Karen's face paled, her voice stammering. "There's got to be a mix-up. She can't—" Elena's voice was icy, cutting her off. "There's no mix-up. Miss Brooks is the owner of this airline." The revelation hit like a thunderbolt, the cabin falling deathly silent. The businessman nodded knowingly, his voice low. "I suspected she was someone big." The young mother's voice was odd. "She owns the plane? Oh, Karen's in deep trouble." The tech entrepreneur's voice was gleeful. "This is going viral. She's done for." Karen staggered back, her voice a desperate whisper. "Owner? That's impossible." Amara stood slowly, her presence commanding, her voice resonant. "Not impossible, Karen. I'm Amara Brooks, and you've just disrespected the person who runs this company." Mia's eyes glistened, her voice a whisper. "I knew something wasn't right." The influencer's stream exploded, her voice a squeal. "She's the boss! This is insane!" Mrs. Carter's voice was soft to her husband. "She handled that with such grace." Karen's voice shook, her confidence crumbling. "I didn't know, Miss Brooks. I swear." Amara's gaze was unrelenting, her voice sharp. "You didn't know because you didn't care to. You saw me and decided I didn't belong." Elena's voice was grave, addressing Karen. "You've violated protocol and embarrassed this airline. Step aside." Karen's hands trembled, her voice pleading. "Please, Captain, I was just doing my job." Amara's voice was calm but devastating. "Your job is to serve, not to judge. You failed spectacularly." The passengers murmured, some nodding, others whispering in awe. The young mother's voice was firm. "She deserves whatever's coming. That was shameful." Her husband agreed, his voice low. "She brought this on herself." The tech entrepreneur's voice was blunt. "You messed with the wrong woman, lady." Amara reached for her phone, her fingers swift as she typed, her voice quiet but ominous. "You'll see the consequences of your actions soon enough." Karen's eyes widened, her voice a sob. Consequences? I didn't mean to offend you. Amara's gaze was unflinching, her voice a quiet promise. You didn't offend me. You exposed yourself. Elena's radio crackled, a voice from ground control breaking through. Captain, we've got a directive from corporate. Miss Brooks has requested an immediate review. Karen's face drained of color, her voice a whisper. Corporate? What does that mean? Amara's voice was serene, her words final. It means your time here is up. The cabin watched, breathless, as the confrontation reached its zenith, Karen's prejudice laid bare against Amara's unassailable authority, the stage set for a reckoning that would redefine the flight's legacy. The private jet's cabin was a pressure cooker, the air thick with shock as the revelation of Amara Brooks' identity reverberated like a seismic wave. The opulent interior, gleaming leather seats, gold accents, and soft lighting felt claustrophobic. The passengers' eyes darting between Amara, standing with regal authority, and Karen Ellis, whose once commanding presence had crumbled into a trembling shadow. Captain Eleanor Ruiz stood firm, her stern gaze fixed on Karen, the passenger manifest still clutched in her hand, a silent indictment of the attendant's grave misstep. Mia, the junior flight attendant, hovered near the galley, her face a mix of relief and dread, while the passengers, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the young influencer, the businessman, the tech entrepreneur, and the young mother with her husband were transfixed, their murmurs a low hum of awe and indignation. The influencer's live stream surged with thousands of viewers, her phone capturing the unfolding drama as comments flooded in. The jet's engines idled, the tarmac below bathed in the fading glow of dusk, but the real storm was inside, where Karen's prejudice had collided with Amara's unyielding power, pushing the confrontation to a breaking point. Karen's voice quavered, her hands raised in a desperate plea. "Miss Brooks, I was mistaken. Let me make this right." Amara's gaze was a blade, her voice calm but unyielding. "You can't undo what you've done. Your actions spoke louder than any apology." The influencer's voice was a hushed squeal. "She's not letting her off. This is iconic." Mr. Carter folded his arms, his voice low. "She's facing the music now. About time." Mrs. Carter's needles lay still, her voice soft. "Such a shame. She could have avoided this." Elena's voice was sharp, addressing Karen. "You've disgraced this crew. Return to the galley and wait for my orders." Karen's eyes widened, her voice cracking. "Wait, Captain, I can explain. I didn't know who she was." Amara's voice cut through, her tone resolute. "Ignorance isn't an excuse. You targeted me because of how I look, not who I am." Mia's voice was a whisper, her eyes glistening. "I should have spoken up sooner." The businessman's voice was firm, cutting in. "You tried, Mia. She wouldn't listen." The young mother's voice rose, indignant. "This is what happens when you judge people unfairly. It's shameful." Her husband nodded, his voice low. "She's getting what she deserves." The tech entrepreneur's voice was blunt. "You tanked your career in one flight. That's a record." Karen's face crumbled, her voice a sob. "I have bills, a family. Please, give me a chance." Amara's expression hardened, her voice steady. "You had every chance to act with decency. You chose otherwise." The cabin's intercom crackled, the captain's voice replaced by a ground control officer. "Flight crew, prepare for an unscheduled landing. Corporate has issued an immediate directive." Passengers gasped, the influencer's eyes widening. "They're landing the plane? This is next level." Mr. Carter's voice was low to his wife. "This isn't just about her job anymore." Mrs. Carter nodded, her voice soft. She's in deeper trouble than she realizes. Karen's voice was frantic, her eyes darting to the exit. Landing? Why? This is insane. Elena's voice was calm but firm. You forced this, Karen. Corporate stepping in. Amara's phone buzzed, a message flashing briefly. She glanced at it, her lips curving slightly, her voice quiet but ominous. You should have stopped when I gave you the chance. Karen's voice was a desperate plea, her hands shaking. What did you do? Tell me. A sleek black SUV rolled onto the tarmac below, its doors opening to reveal two sharply dressed executives, their movements brisk. They boarded swiftly, their presence commanding silence. Ms. Brooks, the boardroom-suited woman said, her voice deferential, "We're here at your request. Legal and security teams are ready." The cabin erupted in murmurs, the influencer's stream exploding. "Legal teams? She's toast," she gasped. Karen staggered back, her voice a whisper. "Legal? This can't be happening." Amara's voice was clear, addressing the executives. "I want this handled with transparency. Her actions reflect on my airline." The male executive nodded, his voice crisp. "Understood, ma'am. We've notified local authorities." Karen's face drained of color, her voice a sob. "Authorities? I didn't do anything illegal." Amara's gaze was unrelenting, her voice sharp. "You assaulted me. That's a crime, witnessed by everyone here." Mia's voice was soft, her eyes downcast. "I saw it all. I'm so sorry, Miss Brooks." The businessman's voice was resolute, cutting in. "We all saw it. She can't deny it." The young mother's voice was fierce. "You humiliated her for no reason. You deserve this." Her husband agreed, his voice low. "Actions have consequences. You earned these." The tech entrepreneur's voice was gleeful. "You're about to be a cautionary tale, lady." Two police officers boarded, their boots heavy on the cabin floor, their presence silencing the murmurs. "Ms. Brooks," the lead officer said respectfully, "we're responding to your assault report. Are you pressing charges?" Amara's voice was firm, her posture unwavering. "Yes, I want her held accountable for her actions." Karen's voice broke, tears streaming. "Assault! It was a mistake! I'm begging you, don't do this!" Amara's voice was calm but devastating. "A mistake doesn't justify your hatred. You crossed a line, and now you'll face the law." The influencer's voice was a hushed frenzy. "She's getting arrested! This is unreal!" Mr. Carter's voice was low to his wife. "Justice is swift today." Mrs. Carter nodded, her voice soft. She brought this on herself. The lead officer stepped forward, producing handcuffs, his voice formal. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault. You have the right to remain silent." Karen's breathing quickened, her voice desperate. "Please, Miss Brooks, I'll do anything. Don't ruin my life." Amara's gaze didn't waver, her voice steady. "You ruined your own life when you chose prejudice over respect." The cuffs clicked, the sound echoing like a gavel, and Karen's sobs filled the cabin as she was led toward the exit. The passengers watched, some shaking their heads, others nodding in approval. The young mother's voice was soft to her child. "See, honey, standing up for what's right matters." Her husband agreed, his voice low. "She's a role model, that's for sure." The tech entrepreneur's voice was blunt. "That's what you get for messing with the boss." Elena addressed the cabin, her voice professional. "We apologize for the disruption. We'll resume the flight shortly." Amara turned to the executives, her voice commanding. "I want a full review of our training protocols. This can't happen again." The female executive nodded, her voice respectful. "It's already in motion, ma'am. We'll ensure compliance." The influencer stream surged, her voice awed. "She's changing the game. Respect to Miss Brooks." Mia approached Amara, her voice trembling.
I'm so sorry for not doing more, ma'am. Amara's voice softened, her gaze kind. You showed courage, Mia. That's enough for now. The cabin buzzed with a new energy, the weight of Karen's downfall mingling with admiration for Amara's resolve. The officers escorted Karen down the steps, her silhouette fading against the tarmac, a fallen figure undone by her own bias. The jet prepared to take off again, but the moment had left an indelible mark, a testament to the cost of prejudice and the power of standing firm.
The private jet soared above the clouds, its engines humming softly as the cabin settled into a reflective calm, the storm of the earlier confrontation now a fading echo. The opulent interior, with its leather seats and golden accents, felt transformed, the air no longer heavy with tension, but alive with a newfound respect. Amara Brooks sat by the window, her gaze fixed on the endless sky, her damp trousers a quiet reminder of the ordeal that had sparked a reckoning. Captain Elena Ruiz had resumed command, her steady presence reassuring the passengers, while Mia, the junior flight attendant, moved through the cabin with a tentative confidence, her earlier hesitation replaced by purpose. The passengers, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the young influencer, the businessman, the tech entrepreneur, and the young mother with her husband, chatted softly, their admiration for Amara's stand palpable. The influencer's live stream had ended, but her phone buzzed with notifications, the story already viral. Karen Ellis's arrest had left an indelible mark, but the true impact of the day's events was only beginning to unfold, promising a legacy that would ripple far beyond the flight. Elena's voice came over the intercom, her tone warm. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're back on course. Thank you for your patience. We'll ensure a smooth journey from here." Mr. Carter raised his coffee cup, his voice low. That's a captain who knows her business. Mrs. Carter smiled, her voice soft, and a passenger who knows her worth. The businessman leaned toward Amara, his voice respectful. "Ma'am, your composure was inspiring. You've set a standard today." Amara turned, her voice gentle. "Thank you, but it's not about me. It's about what's right." The influencer, now off her stream, approached shyly, her voice odd. "Miss Brooks, my followers are going crazy. They're calling you a legend." Amara's lips curved, her voice kind. "I'm no legend, just someone who believes everyone deserves respect." The young mother, cradling her child, spoke up, her voice earnest. "You showed my daughter what strength looks like. Thank you." Her husband nodded, his voice firm. "You've given us all something to think about." The tech entrepreneur grinned, his voice playful. "You're trending worldwide. #Brooks Rules is blowing up." Amara's smile widened, her voice calm. "If it sparks change, that's what matters." Mia approached, offering a fresh coffee, her voice trembling. "Ma'am, I hope this makes up for earlier. I'm so grateful for what you said." Amara accepted the cup, her voice warm. "You've got a bright future, Mia. Keep speaking up." Mia's eyes shone, her voice soft. "I will, Miss Brooks, I promise." The cabin buzzed with a quiet energy, passengers exchanging stories of past slights, their voices tinged with resolve. Mrs. Carter's voice was low to her husband. "She's more than a CEO. She's a teacher." Mr. Carter nodded, his voice steady. "And a lesson we won't forget." The influencer, now off her stream, approached shyly, her voice odd. "Miss Brooks, my followers are going crazy. They're calling you a legend." Amara's lips curved, her voice kind. "I'm no legend, just someone who believes everyone deserves respect." The young mother, cradling her child, spoke up, her voice earnest. "You showed my daughter what strength looks like. Thank you." Her husband nodded, his voice firm. "You've given us all something to think about." The tech entrepreneur grinned, his voice playful. "You're trending worldwide. #Brooks Rules is blowing up." Amara's smile widened, her voice calm. "If it sparks change, that's what matters." Mia approached, offering a fresh coffee, her voice trembling. "Ma'am, I hope this makes up for earlier. I'm so grateful for what you said." Amara accepted the cup, her voice warm. "You've got a bright future, Mia. Keep speaking up." Mia's eyes shone, her voice soft. "I will, Miss Brooks, I promise." The cabin buzzed with a quiet energy, passengers exchanging stories of past slights, their voices tinged with resolve. Mrs. Carter's voice was low to her husband. "She's more than a CEO. She's a teacher." Mr. Carter nodded, his voice steady. "And a lesson we won't forget." Weeks later, a sleek television studio hosted Amara, her tailored suit as commanding as her presence. The interviewer, a seasoned journalist, leaned forward, her voice captivated. "Miss Brooks, your story has inspired millions. What drove you to stand firm that day?"
Amara's gaze was steady, her voice resonant. Dignity isn't negotiable. When someone tries to strip it away, you don't just fight for yourself, you fight for everyone who's been dismissed. The interviewer's voice was moved. "You fired Karen Ellis and pressed charges? Some say that was harsh. Your thoughts?" Amara's voice was firm, unapologetic. "Actions carry weight. She chose to degrade me, and accountability isn't punishment, it's justice." The businessman, watching from his office, nodded, his voice low. "She's rewriting the playbook." The influencer, now with a growing platform, posted a clip, her voice proud. "Miss Brooks is my hero, respect over everything." Amara's airline rolled out reforms, rigorous anti-bias training, anonymous reporting systems, and a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. In a viral video, she addressed her staff, her voice clear. "Luxury isn't in our decor, it's in how we treat every soul on board. Let's make respect our legacy." The young mother, watching with her daughter, smiled, her voice soft. "She's making the world safer for you, sweetie." Her husband agreed, his voice tight. "That's real leadership." Mia's promotion to training coordinator came swiftly, her voice confident in a staff meeting. "Miss Brooks showed me that courage changes everything. Let's pass that on." The tech entrepreneur launched a tech initiative inspired by Amara, his mission statement echoing her words, "Respect is the code we live by." Karen's trial drew global attention. In court, Amara testified, her voice steady. Her actions weren't just personal, they undermined a culture of trust. "I'm here to ensure that stops." Karen's lawyer pleaded, his voice strained. "My client regrets her actions. She's lost everything." Amara's voice was calm but firm. "Regret doesn't erase harm. She must face the consequences." The judge sentenced Karen to 6 months in jail and restitution, her voice stern. "Your prejudice caused real damage. Let this be a warning." Karen, tearful, whispered to her lawyer, her voice broken. "I never thought it'd come to this." Her lawyer's voice was grim. "You underestimated the wrong person." Crestwood's passengers became advocates, sharing Amara's story at community events. The influencer's voice rang out online, her posts viral. "Miss Brooks proved prejudice has a price. Let's all do better." Mr. Carter, at a local forum, spoke up, his voice steady. "She reminded us to see people, not stereotypes." Mrs. Carter nodded, her voice warm. "Her grace under fire changed us all." Amara boarded another flight weeks later, greeted by a new crew, their smiles genuine. "Welcome, Miss Brooks," the lead attendant said, her voice warm. "It's a privilege." Amara returned the smile, her voice calm. "The privilege is a shared journey. Let's make it a good one." As the jet climbed, Amara gazed out, the horizon a canvas of possibility. Her stand had sparked a movement. #respect above all trended globally, inspiring policies and conversations. In a public statement, her voice was resolute. True wealth is measured by how we uplift others. Let's build a world where everyone belongs. The cabin was quiet, the passenger settled, but Amara's impact lingered, a beacon of change. She knew the fight wasn't over, but each step forward was a victory for dignity. Like, share, subscribe to our channel for stories that ignite justice and inspire a world where respect reigns supreme. Amara Brooks' story aboard the private jet unveils critical lessons about confronting prejudice, upholding dignity, and driving systemic change. Her ordeal, facing Karen's baseless discrimination, reveals how snap judgments rooted in bias can dehumanize and divide, targeting the innocent while fostering distrust. Amara's resilience, maintaining composure despite humiliation, underscores the power of self-worth in the face of injustice. Her revelation as the airline's owner wasn't just a personal triumph. It exposed the flaws in a system that tolerates discrimination. Karen's downfall, from firing to arrest, highlights that prejudice carries a steep price, demanding accountability over empty apologies. Amara's reforms, anti-bias training, stricter policies, emphasize that true leadership transforms environments, ensuring respect for all. The passengers' shift from bystanders to advocates shows how one person's stand can inspire collective action, challenging communities to reject stereotypes and embrace empathy. Amara's journey teaches us to question assumptions, value every individual, and use our voices to right wrongs, proving that dignity is universal, not a privilege. Her viral impact, sparking global conversations, reminds us that change begins with courage and accountability. We must foster inclusivity, confront bias head-on, and build systems where respect is non-negotiable, creating a world where no one is judged by appearance but by character. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling stories that expose injustice, celebrate resilience, and inspire action to forge a future where every voice is heard and valued.